Good to see everybody again for our third season of the Community Engagement Spotlight Series. Welcome on this very, very hot day in Wisconsin. Dr. Sebastian Ssempijja is the CEO and clinic director of the Sebastian Family Psychology Practice, where he leads a team of almost 50 individuals in behavioral healthcare and integrated services. The clinic focuses on reaching out to mainstream and multicultural patients. Through their progressive, outcome-driven approach, the team provides individualized care that empowers patients and nurtures them with a holistic approach that seeks to positively change their attitudes towards life and following a community and family-based approach that fosters collaborations and partnerships based on the combined strengths and potential of their stakeholders. Dr. Sebastian integrates his academic and professional interests as a collaborator and partner. He is a field placement instructor committed to preparing the next generation of behavioral health and interdisciplinary professionals. He serves as a leading principal investigator to establish a global health collaborative focused on the intersection of mental health, recovering, and healing, and including community well-being, education, and consultations. Thank you, Dr. Sebastian, for being our featured spotlight guest today. I would now like to introduce today's facilitator, Ms. Tiffany Frazier. Tiffany is a 20-year member of the staff of the Medical College of Wisconsin. Initially, she served as a program manager in the Department of Pediatrics with the Center for the Advancement of Underserved Children, where she administered programs in community-based pediatric resident graduate education, clinic-based early literacy promotion, and community academic partnerships that addressed pediatric oral health access, medical and legal collaborations, and faith-based emergency preparedness in Milwaukee. Currently, she is the program director for MCW's Office of Global Health. In this role, she works closely with the Associate Dean, Laura Cassidy, in developing a sustainable platform of local and international partnerships that align with the global engagement efforts of the college's faculty and trainees across each of MCW's 4 missions. Prior to coming to MCW, Tiffany worked in 3 different continents, holding international positions with the United States Peace Corps and the United Nations programs of UNAIDS and UNICEF in El Salvador, Peru, and Thailand, respectively. And Ms. Frazier is just an outstanding colleague and individual. It's a pleasure to know her and work with her. Tiffany, thank you for serving as our facilitator, and I now turn it over to you.
Thank you kindly, Dr. Young, for that introduction, and I couldn't be more thrilled to highlight a friend and a colleague and a collaborator. Dr. Sebastian, it was in January 2015 when I first met you in a conference room just right around the corner from where I'm currently sitting. And I thank Hillary Chavez, the first coordinator of MCW's Global Health Pathway, for engaging you and other influential community members in the education of our medical students. It was there in that meeting that you gave us a call to action. You said, and may I quote, "Come, let us work together for the betterment of our neighborhoods, cities, and region," unquote. Thus began our collective journey together through the Our City of Nations initiative. Our City of Nations is what a term was given to Milwaukee in the late 1880s, when the city was known for its myriad of, at that time, mostly European immigrant populations. We also acknowledge that a city of nations, that in Milwaukee, it means living and working on traditional Potawatomi, Ho-Chunk, Menominee homeland, along the southwest shores of Michigami, North America's largest system of freshwater lakes, where the Milwaukee, Menominee, and Kinnickinnic rivers meet, and the people of Wisconsin's sovereign nations, the Anishinaabe, Ho-Chunk, Menominee, Oneida, and Moshekon nations remain present still today. With Milwaukee's indigenous roots, Dr. Sebastian's, its historical immigrant settlements, and the continual refugee resettlement for which you are actively engaged, Milwaukee has always been a city of nations. Since 2015, Dr. Sebastian, we have co-hosted 6 multidisciplinary Our City of Nations conferences, And we have organized ourselves by a group of dedicated academic, community-based, and government stakeholders who are collaborating to make sure Milwaukee and our state of Wisconsin is a more welcoming neighborhood for all. And Dr. Sebastian, thank you for continuing to allow me the opportunity to work alongside of you and learn alongside of you. I have grown a love of Ugandan food because of you, and I have even seen your home country. Your ability to contribute and to impact both local and African communities of peoples and practitioners is what I admire most about you, in addition to your everlasting kind smile. And so now, Dr. Sebastian, and I turn this conversation over to you. So I see you have joined us from the offices of the Sebastian Family Psychology Practice, which is a licensed mental health and alcohol and other drug abuse service provider clinic. Dr. Sebastian, why is your organization so important?
Well, thank you so much, Tiffany, and I want to thank, along with you, the organizers of the Medical College of Wisconsin community engagement teams and the leadership there. Thank you for your kind introduction, and for that I'm grateful for this opportunity that we are going to spend here together with a conversation that is going to really include the teams and the members that we work with. I'm privileged to be sitting next to my teammate, who is also our Director of Operations for the clinic, Yvonne, who will have a chance to speak for herself. But in a very unique way, I want to ask that this moment of conversation really underscores why Sebastian Family Psychology Practice matters and why community well-being matters. We are primarily a mental health clinic that focuses on healing and care in the traditional ways of a traditional mental health clinic. But we are also very carefully aware that healing and wellness cannot happen in a vacuum. Every patient that comes to us, whether they are 3 years old or 100 years old, which is the span of our level of patient care, has a family, a support system that they believe in, that makes healing possible. So Yvonne and I intentionally chose the term Sebastian Family Psychology Practice by focusing on family, meaning that every patient has a family system that supports them, that we need in partnership. And by extension, we know that each family has a community around it. And so we seek to engage the community. And right from the beginning of our engagement in this community, in caring for our patients, we knew that we could not do this work alone. We know that we have to have partners in care of different sizes, from faith communities that we are so proud to be partners with, to early education, Head Start programs, to residential treatment centers such as now what's known as WellPoint, formerly known as Ssempijja, St. Charles, all the different residential communities that we serve with, to academicians such as the Medical College of Wisconsin and many other academic partners that we work with, and including the educational systems. So that's a leading reflection for me, that SFPP cannot be what it is without the community, without the team. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Dr. Sebastian. And since you introduced Yvonne, I like to say that behind every great man is an even greater woman. And so let us go now to Yvonne. And Yvonne, will you please share with us the evolution of Sebastian Family Practice? What would you like people to know about your organization, and describe the communities that you serve?
Yeah, thank you. My name is Yvonne Ssempijja, co-founder of Sebastian Family Psychology Practice, and I also happen to be his wife. So we are a couple running this the organization. When Sebastian finished his PhD at Marquette, he did, when he finished his 2 years of supervision with one of the psychologists in town, after which he started working individually. After some time, because of the need in the community, we saw that we needed to form an LLC. We worked jointly together where I was doing the billing and the organizing of everything in the office and pretty much managing, and he was doing the therapy component of it. Shortly after that, he was joined by the first therapist we had on board was Julia Sagara, who happens to be on the forum today. So after the incorporation, we were able to start expanding with the programs we are working with. One of our major clients we had at that time was Wraparound. From Sebastian's working with Ssempijja and Lakeside as a program director for a program that was called Matrix. Matrix was a program that was embedded in the community, and the work it was doing is what Wraparound eventually started doing. So Matrix was really, in a way, a precursor to what the Wraparound program is. In that work, you really got embedded in the community and finding out the needs in the community and the lack of providers in the community who are, culturally sensitive to, to the communities we are serving, which is mostly the Milwaukee area college. People wonder sometimes that whether I am a therapist. I'm an accountant by training and an MBA, CPA, and I used to work with an accounting firm, Deloitte & Touche, for a while. But then after some time, we both joined hands to grow the clinic. And then, the rest is history up to what we are now. We started developing the team, hiring people who were really interested in working in the communities, which are the underserved communities that we are working with. And besides that, the clinic also has been a training ground, because one of the items we saw right away that they were not, when Sebastian was finishing Marquette, the community had about maybe 10 psychologists, and that number hasn't changed that much. Minority psychologists, that number hasn't changed much, including other, therapists and other professionals, in this community in the mental health. So the clinic has been dedicated on training. We get a lot of students from Marquette, from UWM, Mount Mary, Alvano, and Cardinal Street, the former Cardinal Street. We would get students from there from a master's level to a PhD to come in, sometimes to do practicums, but also to come in after they finish their master's program to work for the 3,000 hours licensure. We've worked with students from out of the country, from Arab countries, from China, from Japan, from Indonesia. So globally, we've had students who have come in to work with us. And part of that has helped us to meet the need of the communities we are serving, which makes me mention the communities we are serving. Mostly our clients are American-born, low-income people in the city of Milwaukee. But we have a big population of refugees and immigrants from different African countries, from Bosnia. Our first big group of immigrants were the Hmong communities. So when you really think of any place that has had a war in this world and the refugees have come to America, we've worked with them. The Bosnian, Croatia, and Serbs. We've worked with the different Arab countries. We've worked the different African countries from Cameroon, from Senegal. We've worked with the Somali Bantu community that came in as a big group of refugees, Ethiopians, Eritreans, So almost every group you can think of. And now we are working a lot with the Burmese community. The most recent ones are from Ukraine, Afghanistan. So we have a lot of clients. And because of working with all these communities, we have intentionally developed people with skills to work with them, with the language skills and language competences. About maybe 15 years ago, 20 years ago, we started having interns to come in and work with us who speak the Hmong community. I think we had the first licensed Hmong clinician in Wisconsin at master's level, and that was Langley, who is still with us at this clinic. And that is all intentional so that we grow the capacity in the community. We have Arab-speaking clinicians who are able to work with our Arab-speaking clients. So with that in mind, we have developed the clinic up to about 50 people. We're still doing the training, aggressive training with all people who come in to be able to meet the needs we have in this community. Yeah, so I think with that, we're still going strong.
The global community is what you had just described, and it's quite amazing when you are able to describe the communities, the individuals that you serve. It's quite impressive. And I have to thank you on behalf of the college for hosting our students as well. You hosted one of our graduate students in the Masters of Science in Global Health Equity degree program this summer. You've hosted our medical students for observational opportunities and to see your work in action. And I know that your work just doesn't happen at your clinic, but I know you do home visits as well, and you reach people where they're at, and it's quite impressive. And it's a really astounding model. Thank you for that, Yvonne. In your introduction, we heard about the nearly 50 staff members, and you've begun to describe that they represent the communities for which you serve. So my next question, Dr. Sebastian, is how does your staff effectively engage with the communities that you serve?
So I will make a brief observation, and then I'll be asking our colleague and my friend Julia Sagara to also add, since he's one of our early staff that joined us following the Matrix program. I think it has been very challenging, but intentional, in the sense of not only reaching out to folks that think like we do, but are bought into the mission. We are lucky that all our staff who come from different backgrounds, and 13 of them speaking 13 languages out of a total now close to over 20 languages now, that are people want to serve. Want to serve not only with their mind, there's a sense of mission, vision, and a lot of sacrifice, dedicated to serve outside the model that normally a clinic would follow, whereby clients coming to us and we combine the process whereby we go into the community, into the schools, into the homes, into places of worship, into psychiatric hospitals, into main hospitals, a nursing home, wherever the client is, we go to meet them and serve them. And that has meant also recruiting staff with a full understanding that their typical day would involve different scenarios. And that became so significant, especially through the crisis with COVID. So I'm going to ask Julius to add on his experience, because you've been an important contributor to this process. So Julius Agara.
Warm welcome.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I've been with the clinic for about 25, 26 years now, and I think from the beginning. And again, it's been a very enriching experience, just for me also personally, and just the overall working with a good team at the clinic that Sebastian and Yvonne have been able to put together. And that team, again, for me also as a clinician, is also an opportunity for me to learn because of the diversity and people coming from different backgrounds, which then also extends to the work we do with the clients, that also having to deal with clients from different backgrounds and who have different cultural experiences, and they bring that to the table, and which also in turn, we also learn from them, not only about their own background, but also how that also impacts and affects us as clinicians and the people who work with the other groups. So that's a real plus, the diversity that are really very helpful to us. My years at the clinic, I've always worked in the community, and I've always worked in homes, just as Dr. Sebastian was explaining. Yeah, I've done a lot of in-homes. I go into the homes, I visit clients, even though they're in the hospital, wherever they are, I reach out to them. And this mitigates and then helps them from having to come to the office, which sometimes is a real challenge to most of the clients that we have. So this is a model that has worked out very well for us, reaching out to the client, meeting them where they are at, and being able to work with them at their level. It's been very effective in a sense. I would say that the reason I would say it's very effective is that I can see we have served a lot of people, which I don't think you would have been able to do that if you were just expecting them to come to the office. Reaching out to them allows us to serve a lot more people and touch the lives of more people. I don't think it's just numbers, but also there is some quality, because when I come to your home, and particularly lots of these cultures, when I come to your home, that means I do appreciate you more. And I become part of you. I almost become part of your family. And that really, in turn, kind of makes the dynamic of, it's not just a therapeutic relationship, but there's also interpersonal and human relationship that is built through that process. And I personally have always preferred doing the in-home than in-office for that particular reason.
Thank you, Julius. Anything else to add?
Yeah, the other thing is just talk about the growth and development, how the clinic has grown over the years, and just the effectiveness of both Yvonne and Dr. Sebastian of recruiting people who fit into the philosophy of the clinic. It's not just like anybody who wants to come in comes in. They have to fit into that philosophy of the clinic and be able to blend in well with the staff, and overall just with the whole treatment team that we have. Our treatment goes beyond just staff. Of course, we have other organizations that we collaborate with, and all those are part of the team for us that we have to all blend together. So I've seen the clinic grow to that extent where I would say it's a premier clinic within the central city at this point, serving that population.
Julius, thank you. I couldn't agree more when we think about model practices of care, and you absolutely have seen the history of its growth. You have the historical knowledge and the scope of practice to be witness to that and be a part of it. In my early career, I too was a home visitor and worked with teenage mothers, and I agree with you. There's a real privilege and a pleasure to be invited into somebody else's home to work alongside them. So thank you for sharing your experiences as a practitioner at Sebastian Family Practice.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Sebastian, back to you. I know we say it takes a village to raise a child, and I'd love to hear about and the description of the educational partnerships that you have to strengthen your individual care and the mental health work that you have to serve our youngest communities.
Thank you. And on that role, I will invite my friend and my colleague, Charlie. Please step forward and share the story.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a privilege and an honor to be here today, speaking on behalf of Dr. Sebastian and Yvonne, as well as his fabulous organization that you've heard about. SFPP means so much to the community. I've known Dr. Sebastian professionally for over 20 years in several capacities because he's such a fixture in the community. And really, he wants to build partnerships at every level and infuse mental health where he can. So I work for the largest school district in Milwaukee County, and we needed to do better with educating our students. And part of that is dealing with their mental health or their mental wellness. And Dr. Sebastian, early on, so this is 2005 and later, came to the table willingly to be able to discuss how can we meet the needs of students with unmet or mental health needs, regardless of pay, regardless of status and background. And he worked tirelessly to bring a coalition together and build a collaboration. We benefit from his knowledge, but also his character and his humor to bring folks together. So if you know Dr. Sebastian, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't, he's just a pleasure to work with. But at these early meetings, he was a motivating force to pivot fearlessly into the field of education, to be able to work in the school, to bring clinicians right in to move the needle for students with unmet mental health needs or emerging mental health needs that certainly extended beyond what the school district, social workers, psychologists, counselors, what have you, could work towards. Without any financial backing or promises, he gave us the gift of his time to be able to talk about what can we do to do better for the community. And you've heard that community is his focus, but the student was the entry point, the student that needed help. But once we were able to bring Sebastian Family on board and his clinicians, we were able to get in front of those families, work with the families, and work with the community. And then by and large, change what students needed to be able to be successful, to braid in mental health as part of what students need. And he was such a big force in making that conversation happen at higher levels of MPS, because for all too long, mental health was a taboo subject that nobody wanted to touch. But by his careful guidance, words, support, not only during the day, but after, on weekends, whatever you need, he was able to get in many people's minds in the education system in Milwaukee County that talking about mental health, infusing it as a wellness factor at a universal level is important. And so he's been a partner with us for a long time. A significant amount of schools benefit from his clinicians being in those schools. He strives, and his wife, to hire colleagues and clinicians that look like the population that they're serving, which is kind of the unicorn in the field, is to have clinicians of color, clinicians that speak different languages, but is so important to have that relationship and to have those qualities when reaching out to families, because then we can impact students' education by having them be mentally fit. So he, his wife, his clinicians believe in, and part of his vision, part of his passion is to help students maintain their best, to be their best, which is to really increase the education system. And then lately, he's been able to really infuse the immigrant and refugee population in the county into what he's able to do. I know it's been a passion of his, but we've been able to make strides and really build a partnership with the school district, with the county, with private, public schools. Whomever asks him for help, he stands up and says, yes, I can help. And so that community wellness is his focus and the ability to do better. And he meets his own call to action. He challenges us all to be there and show up, but he leads by example. So I'm proud to be here today to be able to speak about that, because we as a community wouldn't be where we are without his agency.
Charles, I really appreciate you describing the way in which the work happens. Would you like to comment also about your role and the opportunities you have and the specific tasks that you have in this partnership?
Certainly. Thank you, Tiffany, for the question. I'm able to coordinate for the school system, those schools where Dr. Sebastian has placed his clinicians, and really try to infuse with the teachers to talk about mental health, to get them understanding it's not a taboo subject, and then work with the families to improve the community. So really doing my best to work hand in hand with what he has already started, maybe doing projects on the weekends with families, working with Yvonne to make sure everything is set, working with his clinicians to make sure they have the information. And so I'm really just in customer service, trying to make sure that what his agency needs can get aligned with the school district, because school districts are difficult to work with and kind of a unique animal to understand. So I'm trying to bridge that gap for his wonderful services.
And if I may add, Charlie, in addition to your great service, you have a great team. We appreciate your work with Jill, the leadership that you work with, Kim Merath and Nicole Kane, the entire MPS team from the top to the classrooms, to the halls that are in which we serve. So we are very grateful for that. Do you mind if you can mention the other SCPMH partners, Charlie?
Not a problem. We have 39 schools in the MPS that are being impacted by our mental health program. Sebastian Family is our largest support with over a third of those schools. Our other partners are Children's Wisconsin, 16th Street Community Health Clinics, Lutheran Social Services, Mental Health America, and Amri Counseling Services. And together, that coalition meets to really talk about the needs of academics and our students and how can we do better. But Dr. Sebastian Voice is our guide and oftentimes our quiet leader.
Thank you for that,
Charlie.
Charles. Yes.
Tiffany?
Dr. Sebastian, any other follow-ups in the work with the schools and children?
Well, let me then invite our team members at the Bureau of Refugee Programs. We have here Tracy Gallup to be able to comment on your work at the Bureau of Refugee Programs. Please share your work and our collaboration on refugee and immigrant services.
Wonderful. Yes. Thank you for having me. I feel like everyone's known you for 20 years, Dr. Sebastian, and I only have 3 months under my belt. But it's been such a pleasure getting to know you and work with your team. What I can say is, yes, I work for the state of Wisconsin Bureau of Refugee Programs and as the Ukrainian refugee coordinator. And also under that role is I contract manage or manage different organizations that help refugees throughout our state. While one of our team members was on leave in Bosnia, I had the honor of filling in for her and really learning about Dr. Sebastian's organization since June. And what I can tell you is they receive programmatic funds for 4 separate grants that serve refugees. And so like the beginning of the conversation, we talked about how he helps mental health, but he also helps youth. And we have 4 separate grants. 2 separate grants go for mental health initiatives. 2 of them go toward youth mentoring and school impact. And he's done a lot of great work in serving both of those groups. I can say it takes a lot of work from what we expect of our partners, and he does a great job of documenting services, coordinating services, providing outreach services, and that's all reflected back to us in reporting and narrative reports. And I can share that there has been a lot of great work with youth right now from Dr. Sebastian's office and team in ensuring that the student body stays in school and that they don't go to work to support the family that they might have done in their home countries. And he's even had a few students join the military, U.S. military, and that was a great success for him. But there are so many other things he's done to coordinate outreach events throughout the city and to have a summer picnic. And that's just in addition to providing direct client services for mental health, which we know can be a challenge for refugees. It's not something that may be socially acceptable in their community or their home country. And so the fact that they can maintain those services for up to 5 years with participants is just wonderful. So that's been our experience, and we always enjoy having him. He's a part of every meeting that we have, and we enjoy having their clinic come and showcase what they do.
Tracy, thank you for that, and the perspective of a government organization partnering with Sebastian Family Practice. In addition to you sharing how you have a contractual relationship that has impactful outcomes, not only for the work that the state is expected to do in terms of refugee resettlement, but the work that happens with individuals. Can you share a little bit about what we will expect as a state in terms of future newcomers?
Sure, I can say that we've had the largest amount of newcomers in the past 2 years than we've had in many, many years, more than 15 years. We continue to see increased amount of Burmese specific Rohingya families to the Milwaukee area. And so it's great that he continues to partner with Burmese speaking students to be able to communicate effectively with those families. I can also share that there are, one is not so new, Uniting for Ukraine is one platform on which Ukrainians come to the US through private sponsorship. And so it's unique in that resettlement agencies would not have referred these people or persons to SFSP. They would have to heard that through their private sponsor or community network. And so Ukrainians come to them uniquely in, a community referral, not necessarily a resettlement agency referral. And so that's very interesting. And we expect to receive more Ukrainians, but also other immigrants through a new, I would say, process. It's called Welcome Course, which is modeled after United for Ukraine. And what that is there are private sponsorship organizations that are usually national organizations who host private sponsorship groups, 2 of which we have in Wisconsin now, in the northern part of the state. But what these groups can do, they're individuals like you or myself. They take 5 individuals and they host a person or family. And so with that, we don't really know, we don't have an expected amount, but we know that the federal goal is to have a certain amount of persons entering the US through this platform. So again, it's great that Dr. Sebastian is out in the community so that families who do come through this private sponsorship model have a place to go.
Thank you so much, Tracy. And if I may add on that sharing, the predictions for next year of newcomers will be over 4,000 people spread across the great state of Wisconsin. Metropolitan Milwaukee continues to be the largest host of newcomers, but other regions are also going to get more people coming in. So what does this mean? This means that all systems have to be activated, from employment to education. And when I think of education, all the way from elementary school, professional schools, including the medical college, including the universities, including the technical colleges, because we know that only through education and skill building will newcomers be able to continue blessing their new home, which is in the United States, with their skill sets, and advance the economies of our country, strengthen the communities of our neighborhoods, and strengthen communities of schools, and really be continue to make our contribution, not only to the United States, but globally. Tiffany?
Thank you for that, Tracy, and Dr. Sebastian as well. I was thinking about in our individual role, and that is to be present as good neighbors and welcoming neighbors individually. If there are any resources, Tracy, that you wanted to put in the chat and help link the participants of this seminar to opportunities where we can become hosts and contribute to the work that's happening, that will continue to happen, please share that with us.
Sure.
I'm going to, yes, go ahead, Tracy. Is there something else?
I was just saying I'll put 2 links in there. Hopefully they can help. Yeah.
Great, thank you so much. I'm going to be moving into my final question for Dr. Sebastian and friends. So if there's anyone that's here with us in the Zoom room, and although I've commandeered the majority of the focus today, if there's something you wish to ask Dr. Sebastian, Yvonne, and the whole team, please throw that also in the chat, and we'll be happy to have that answered. So Dr. Sebastian, as we're nearing towards the end of our hour together, and I think it's been quite compelling, the work that you're collectively doing. I wanted to ask you to share, how can people support the work of Sebastian Family Practice and support the communities that you serve?
Thank you so much, Tiffany. Thank you so much for our audience. First of all, let's continue to respond to the call to action on promoting mental health, recovery, and healing to make it our daily conversation becoming mainstream. Mainstream to all the kitchen tables, to the picnics, to places of worship, to see that people no longer feel shy to come forward if they're suffering from anxiety, from depression, from trauma, to normalize that. And in that case, I'm also appealing and working closely with all our hospitals, including our psychiatric inpatient and outpatient programs, to see that patients and families feel comfortable coming forward and believe and experience that they are going to be treated humanely, kindly, and in a very welcoming manner. We cannot do this work, as we have indicated from the beginning. Yvonne and I are just lucky to have a great team here at the clinic that supports us, and we cannot thank them individually enough. But we know very well that it takes a village to raise a child. And if I can expand that same concept, it takes a village to keep each one of us healthy and well. So what does that mean in terms of capacity building? Our clinic is as strong as it is because of its multidisciplinary, multicultural, multilingual staff, from physicians to psychologists to master's level trained persons, bachelor's level, associate degree, non-degree, but all folks coming in with this very strong skill set. So here I want to appeal to all educators and the universities that are raising and harvesting new providers, for them to have a mission and a vision of serving people with dignity and joy. I further also want to request that our city and our state continues to be a welcoming state for all newcomers, whether they are coming in through the traditional ways of resettlement or through the border, whether they are seeking asylum and they're still suffering from the uncertainty and distress of not having legal papers. Let those people feel comfortable as newcomers. And here I'm proud to share that Boyana, who is our bureau chief at the Bureau of Refugee Programs, has reassured us that she's going to work with us and our partners through our State of Nations collaboration to host an annual conference for 2 days where all providers who care about refugees and immigrants can be together and work collaboratively. Finally, I want to also appeal to the fact that mental health and well-being is not only a local issue, but is global. The evidence for that is that Yvonne and I, and then through our larger collaboration, we've maintained that the stigma towards mental health is not only local in the United States, but is global. So the more we do together to reduce that stigma and allow that our mental health emotional well-being, recovery, trauma care become mainstream in all cultures becomes crucial. So we established the Uganda Behavioral Health Alliance, or UBHA, as a non-profit entity through which we raise funds to help us fund campaign activities here on the ground, here right in Milwaukee, where we have unfunded needs that have to be met, but also to continue and to understand that our refugees, whether they come from the Congo or Sudan or Iraq or Malaysia, that we know that our new arrivals still have concerns and worries about their homelands where they came from. So how do we understand and make sure that mental health is global? So we have established the Global Mental Health Alliance through UBHA, through a conference that we host every year and bring together people from about 10 countries in the numbers of about 150 to 200. We have a conference coming up this October on the 5th, 6th, and 7th in Uganda. And for that, we are looking for funding to help us. Every dollar counts, from buying data so people can have their internet on, they can have their WhatsApp on, to reach their patients and support their communities, to supporting counselors, psychiatrists, doctors, social workers who work alone but need support, folks who are in refugee camps but need to have a collegial support. So through the Global Mental Health Alliance, we have built a collective of individuals who are able to help us have a high impact. So Uganda Behavioral Health Alliance would be the venue through which to assist us, in addition to the other ways that I have mentioned on how people and the community can support us.
Thank you for that, Dr. Sebastian. As we finish up, a couple questions from our audience, which is, you're mentioning home of Uganda and on the continent and around the world, including in our own nation, that the stigma of talking about mental health is real and present. But how did you yourself find mental wellness an area of interest?
A very interesting journey. We have shared before, the commitment to well-being is really a mission for me and my family of origin, and by extension also for my in-laws. Both our parents, our fathers, now God bless them, they're both gone, but they were one a catechist, the other worked in the Ministry of Health. And so we believe that the healing process is part of our mission. And I picked up on psychology and because I believed and felt that by understanding human behavior, understanding the mind, understanding emotional health, it would lead to me understanding myself better and hopefully assist me in establishing healthy relationships. And in that way, assist those that may need us, from the clinical care to folks working and struggling with anxiety and depression, anything that's in their way, in the way of optimal functioning. So my job and my calling, with the assistance of my wife and a colleague in life and the team here, is how can we be a venue to enable people to be their best, optimal functioning through support.
Thank you, Dr. Sebastian. We're going to close with one last question. And we are quite familiar with the effectiveness and contributions of community health workers. How has your organization worked with community health workers?
Deeply, carefully, and respectfully. Community health workers, to me, are the bridges between us as a clinic and our patients in the community. They're the bridge between a pharmacist, a primary care provider, a radiologist, and the patient. They're the ones who will follow through to make sure medications are picked up and the instructions for using those medications are followed. They making sure that appointments are made for wellness check and the patient goes. So they are an essential partner in care. And I just wish there was a degree offered for community health workers. Maybe it is there. And if I'm behind on the curve on that, Tiffany, help me to learn.
Well, I was the former board chair of Milwaukee AHEC, who has a very robust training program and statewide. So yes, There are certificates, and we have to work. There's policy makers, changers, and then we really build that up as a strong profession and a billable profession. Thank you, Dr. Sebastian, and I really thank those who put those 2 questions in the chat as we wrap up our time together. I can't help but think about and reflect on my favorite African proverb, which I think was well illustrated during our time together and with your close village of colleagues and friends and coworkers as well. And it reads, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. And I'd love to end this hour together with that proverb and reflection in that. And I'm sure there are many who may want to reach out to you, Yvonne and Dr. Sebastian. I know you always welcome a warm visit to your practice to have a conversation with you and to learn more and listen to the way in which we can partner and go far together. So with that, a warm round of applause for your entire village this afternoon who shared the time with us. And we just have a couple closing comments as we'll share and close out. Of course, we want to say thank you everyone for joining us today. And a recording of this presentation will soon be posted to the website of the Office of Community Engagement under MCW CE Spotlight. And opportunities for you to make a difference. So if this presentation inspired you, the work inspired you today, please consider donating or offering your assistance to the great work of Sebastian Family Practice that you heard reaches both near and far from Milwaukee's neighborhoods to the nations of the continent of Africa. And please join us for our next Spotlight, Wednesday, September 27th at 4 p.m. Join us as we spotlight the Wausau Free Clinic in Wausau, Wisconsin, and an opportunity to hear about the important work and the community engagement that's happening in those communities. On behalf of the Office of Community Engagement and the MCW Office of Global Health, thank you everyone for your time this afternoon. And most importantly, thank you to our genuine community partners.